All right, we return to one of the stories that we broke a short while ago. The SABC has suspended 3 employees after last Thursday's broadcast of the incorrect presidential speech address. This after the broadcaster transmitted the rehearsal clip instead of the correct speech of President Cyril Ramaphosa. The corporation has described the transmission of the wrong clip as sabotage. In a statement released a few minutes ago, the SABC says that the correct clip had been prepared, but the involved production staff still chose to run the wrong clip. The implicated employees were given an opportunity to make representations. We're now joined by the GE4 News, Phathiswa Magopeni. Thanks so much for joining us. Welcome to the program.
Good afternoon, Peter.
I suppose this is not one of the things that you like in your job, to have to suspend employees for something like this. Why was it necessary to suspend them?
It's a very difficult decision to take, but consequence management has to happen when we have incidents like this. Where it gets difficult is the fact that the correct clip was prepared in time for transmission, and we had a gap of about 45 minutes before the time it was scheduled to play, and everyone was made aware of the fact that all the material was cleared and ready to go to air. But for some reason, someone decided to change the clip without telling anyone, and we ended up with the rehearsal on air.
So was this human error? I mean, you see sabotage mentioned in the statement there. What do you suspect?
The preliminary investigation shows that there is an element of coordination that led to an incorrect clip being played. We met the team on Friday, a day after the incident, and we wanted to find out what happened. And we got the information, and then we asked everyone to write a report telling us exactly what their view was of what happened. And based on what we got and other information that we gathered, we do suspect that there was a well-considered and well-coordinated exercise.
To what end?
That's a question that we're all asking. We have had smooth transmissions up to that day, and in fact there's a different investigation that we are already getting involved in, because there were 2 incidents, but this is what we have had to deal with first, because the other one we're still trying to get information around it. They were just 60 minutes apart.
What's been the response of the presidency? Have they complained?
No, because on the day we issued a statement apologizing for the incident and apologizing to South Africans for putting them through what we did. And we need to respect South Africans. And if we are going to be trusted with the mandate that we carry, we need to show respect and do the work that we're meant to do in a most effective and efficient way. But when you see incidents like this, it is disheartening that we've had to go through this. It's disheartening. But also consider the fact that it's not only the public, it's also the journalists within the SABC who have worked hard, some working long hours and nights at times, making sure that we do what we're meant to do. And then we have to go through this.
And especially when we're watching the state capture inquiry at the moment, looking at the SABC and some of the things that went on, I would imagine your concern might be what happens to the brand, especially with all the rebuilding that's going on.
This is a huge reputational risk for SABC and the SABC News division. We are meant to build trust, and we are meant to build credibility. We are meant to build the integrity of the SABC News brand. But when things like this happen, you just don't know where to start looking. But when you do find evidence that points you to a certain direction, that's what we are following now.
So some people might say that suspending people for what could be a mistake is just going to generate fear, and people will start being scared to be at work.
Here's the thing. You can either choose to take that view and do nothing, or normalize things that are not meant to be normal by taking that decision, or apply consequence management, because in this case we will get to a point where we understand whether it was a mistake or not. But from what we have seen and from what we are gathering from the evidence, it's coordinated.
Are you happy that the protocols, systems and processes are in place to make sure something like this doesn't happen, and that it can only happen if someone doesn't follow procedures?
This is exactly what we're trying to do by taking action when we see things like this. It's about tightening our editorial controls and ensuring that people adhere to SOPs, and that when an instruction is given that the material is ready for transmission, if you're going to change anything, go back and tell the desk, go back and tell the people who are in charge of the production and say, I've decided to change it for this reason. You can't just change things randomly without anyone knowing anything. This is a huge embarrassment to us.
So what happens to the suspended employees? How long is the suspension?
It's going to be determined by the further investigations that we are embarking on and the disciplinary processes that are going to follow. And there's also a freelancer that's affected, and that person has been unscheduled until the process is concluded.
All right. And going forward, how are you feeling about the changes that you've been able to put into place and how the newsroom is coming together?
I think following this incident, all I want to say to our journalists is stay focused. We just want everyone to do what's meant to be done and honor the public mandate that we're entrusted with. And we will deal with the stuff that we need to deal with. But what we are not going to allow is people undermining the work of other journalists internally.
All right, so that's where we'll leave it. Thank you very much indeed, Phathiswa.
Thank you.
All right, that was the GE of News at the SABC, Phathiswa Magopeni, talking to us about 3 employees that have been suspended for the mishap that happened last week, where we played the wrong clip of the presidential speech.